LazyDude99 could not be here, as he is on the run from a homicidal clown. However, he has left this video for your enjoyment. Enjoy.
Hello everybody, I'm LazyDude99 in an undisclosed location on the run, but that's another story. Let's talk about what's really important now. I'm here to review the Fantastic Four movie. And this is I think it's like the fourth time in the franchise history they're trying to make this work with the Fantastic Four. There's the one with Jessica Alba and Chris Evans, and then there was the one, like a couple in the past that were made because they just wanted to keep the rights, so they just made crap. I don't know. Anyway, this time we got Miles Teller as Reed Richards, otherwise known as Mr. Fantastic. We got Michael B. Jordan as the Human Torch, Jamie Bell as the Thing, and Kate Mara as Susan Storm, otherwise known as the Invisible Woman. So, what can I say about this film? This film has been bombing. It's been critically panned. Let me put it this way. This movie has a lower rating on Rotten Tomatoes than all the other Fantastic Four movies. And that is saying something, since those movies are hated and despised as well. So, what my thoughts, like, when I heard all that stuff and I went into this movie, I'm like, oh, it's probably going to be bad, isn't it? It's probably going to be bad. And then I saw it, and this is an interesting movie for me to review, mostly because while I don't share the hate that other people have for this, because this is an interesting movie. Okay, let me just put it this way. This is a mediocre movie, but an awful Fantastic Four movie. Okay, like, there's a difference, okay? If this was not Fantastic Four, it just happened to have all these characters that happen to have the same powers as the Fantastic Four, it would be probably a lawsuit. But beyond that, it would be mediocre. It would be a forgetful little film that nobody would really care about and wouldn't be this damaging. But as a Fantastic Four movie, it is horrible! It is absolutely awful. And you got some people that might say, well, is it worse than the other ones? Because the other ones are really, really bad. I would say that, before I get into that, let me just go over the basic story. We got Reed Richards, who is finding that he is brought to the Baxter Association that is run by Franklin Storm, who he and his adopted daughter Susan and his son and his son Johnny are part of this project that they're making to go to interdimensional travel, or into another dimension, basically, yes. And so, when they finally make this machine, we got Reed Richards, Victor Von Doom, Johnny, and for some reason, Reed says for Ben, hey, you come along too, and they all go into this other dimension, and this time, instead of going up into space, being hit by cosmic rays, they are altered because of this incursion into this other dimension. Their DNA is altered. Johnny, of course, has the ability to set himself on fire and fly. Ben Grimm has the ability to... He's a giant rock monster, so he can do rock monster stuff. We have Susan Storm, who can turn invisible and create force fields, and Reed Richards, who can stretch. And the way that this... Let me just say, so you know, since I don't really like this movie that much, this is going to be full spoiler review. You don't have to worry about me not getting to the spoilers. It's full spoiler review. The reason I say it would be a mediocre film on its own is because when you look down to it, there isn't anything that horrible about it on its own. You know, when it comes down to it, Reed Richards is fine as a character. The characters are fine. None of them say anything excitedly stupid. There's a couple of annoying moments with each, but nothing that's outrightly awful. The acting is decent. It's not great. The characters don't have that much chemistry off of each other, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. The problem is, this is a Fantastic Four movie. And when you look at it as a Fantastic Four movie, it's awful. Now, as I say, mediocre movie on its own without any source material. With the source material and with the stuff that you want to get out of a Fantastic Four movie, you don't get any of that. Nothing. Let me just go over each of the characters. Reed Richards Sure, you get that he's smart, but I never actually get the thinking process of what he's doing or the excited nature of him. You never get to see stuff like, I don't know, his home life. We hear, like, how he didn't like his parents, but we don't get to see how, like, in the comic books, from what I know, his dad was a guy who liked sports and was not the most intelligent guy out there. What if you showed some of that, some of the struggle of raising? Not that I want more from the kid actors that they had in this one, because the kid actor who played Reed was so bad. I mean, he only played him for a little bit of the movie, but, like, he has, like, there's a reaction where he blows stuff up, he's like, whoa. Or he's like has a blank face, and there's no charisma with that kid, no charisma with the character. And I was so looking forward to Miles Teller as Reed Richards, but it just did not pan out for me. I mean, because he's boring. This movie's pacing is so slow. It drags on forever and ends up, because of this, being more explanation of this does this and this is happening because of this and this happening because of this, and it's just explaining things over and 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 over, and it's never actually about anything. It tries to shove in some environmental message like, if we could get to this world, maybe we'll find something to save ours, but it's never actually set up well in the film to actually be about anything. It's only about these characters getting their powers and finding a way to use them at the end, which is what the first Fantastic Four movie was about. But I'll give this to the first Fantastic Four movie. It was trying to be a Fantastic Four movie. I mean, it's a Fantastic Four comic book. Look, I'm not that big of a Fantastic Four fan. I'm really not. So I'd be open to some changes. Really, I would be. But they gotta be changes that respect... Okay, Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan made changes to the Batman lore and the Batman franchise when he did Batman Begins. Batman was never part of the League of Assassins or in the movies League of Shadows as he was a part of it in the comics. We never knew what Batman did. We only know he went to different places and learned different things. And here, he just learned all of it from the League of Assassins and Batman Begins. But that was fine, because the character stayed the same. The character was still in the line with what the character has always been like in the comics. You can change stuff about the origin. I didn't care that they were going into another dimension instead of going up into space. I was actually fine with that. The way they handled it was pretty sloppy, but I was actually fine with that. I didn't care about stuff like that. And then, you got all this... Okay, so Reed Richards, not that great. Ben Grimm, slowly glanced over. His character before he's the Thing has barely any dialogue and barely interaction with any of the... None interaction with any characters besides Reed Richards. None. And what's the thing? There's certain requirements that you should need to try to do in a Fantastic Four movie. One of the big things is the headbutting and the pranking that goes on with Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm. They don't have they have one line of dialogue at each other at the end. I counted one. Well, okay, maybe two, because he says to, like, are you equipped to handle this? And then at the end they have one thing where he's teasing the Thing. That's it! No! No! You need to have that relationship. You need to develop that friendship. And they didn't! There is no chemistry between the Fantastic Four's characters at all. They're supposed to feel like Marvel's first family. They don't feel anything like a family. Not to mention, like, okay, Reed Richards and Susan Storm are supposed to get together. Like, they don't have them get together. They're supposed to have some romantic interactions. No, not really. They were there, but they weren't really done well, and they were handled sloppily. And, oh my gosh, and Johnny, okay, let's go to Susan Storm. Stone-faced. Okay? Stone-faced. That's all Kate Mara did in this film. She was just stone-faced like this all the time. She had like a couple scenes where she cracked a smile, but that's about it. And that's not good. That is not good at all. To have like her be like, Reed, blah, blah, blah. Look, I didn't want her to be, like, this actress is better than Jessica Alba. She is. And I could buy Kate Mara as a scientist more than I could ever buy Jessica Alba. The cast in this is good. But gosh darn it. She was boring. She was boring. Johnny Storm, like, they try to play up the whole he's reckless and anything, but, you know, at least in the original Fantastic Four movie, he came off as a charming reckless, where here he comes across as a douchebag. And I'm like, come on! I like this guy as an actor. He played great in Chronicle. Why is he coming across like a douchebag in this? And he's just... everything, he's just like his dad, like, no, that's what you want. It's your future. That's not mine. Now I'm gonna go. And now I want my car. No! He's lacking that charisma, that charm, that jokey nature that Johnny Storm has. And it's just not good. But the icing on the cake... Dr. Flippin' Doom! Here's what I say. If this was not in Fantastic Four movie, let's just say this was a regular movie, would this be the worst villain ever? No, I mean, you set him up. He's well set up. He's pretty well, he's got some interaction with the character. He has some, at the end he's shown as super powerful. But this is not just any old story. This is not just any old characters that you can just make your own. This is Dr. Flippin' Doom. And let's compare his entrance in this to other great villains. Darth Vader. His entrance, he grabs a rebel and is interrogating him. The rebel lies to him. He's like, oh, if this is a council ship, where's the ambassador? And breaks his neck and says, find! Tear this ship apart! I want her alive! Great introduction. Great introduction for a villain. How about, let's do a Marvel villain. Like, Ironmonger. Now, before he's Ironmonger, like, we do have introduced to him before, but the first time we see him as a villain, he has a device that he flips on, and everyone's ears start bleeding, and they start falling, and they're paralyzed, and he has his men kill all of these terrorists, showing how, oh man, this guy's business. That's a great introduction. What is Dr. Doom's introduction? He can close blinds with his mind! No way! Back off! Back off! This guy means business! He can close the blinds! Oh, and look, I was actually one of the people that when they said Dr. Doom's gonna be a hacker, I was okay with that. I was like, yeah, in this day and age, we can have somebody who's like, knows everything, and is online, and he knows thanks to the internet, knows the entire world like the back of his hand. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool. And here it looked like he was just a guy that thinks that he's smarter than everybody else and just living in his mother's basement. I mean, sure, he probably was living on his own because he seemed pretty well off. But I mean, like, the look did not suit him. It looked like he was, no. Not to mention, with whole thing with Dr. Doom, is there's that scene where he's just walking down the hallway and people's brains are splattering left, right, like, and I'm just like, okay, that's very powerful. Sure, very powerful. Why doesn't he splatter anyone's brains when they're fighting him? Seriously? Like, Reed Richards and Johnny, their brains are not any stronger than any normal human being. And he's just walking through the hallways and people are going and just dying. Why can't it just to other people? It's when you can't make a character that strong, it's pointless because now you're thinking, well, why isn't he doing this in the fight? He's doing this to random civilians. Why isn't he doing it in the fight? It's pointless because when you have a character where you don't know their limits, it makes them impossible to actually think that they could be beaten. And when they are beaten, it feels like a flippin' cop-out. The epicness of Dr. Doom is Marvel's #1 villain, okay? Dr. Doom is the Lex Luthor of the Marvel Universe. In fact, if you put him in a death battle against Lex Luthor, Dr. Doom would probably win. But my point is, Dr. Doom is a character that I don't know if you can actually do in a Marvel movie without setting him up tremendously. Because, he's a guy that has studied both sorcery and science. Most people forget that sorcery part. You know, because they consider the Fantastic Four science fiction. The Fantastic Four is a franchise that takes all of the elements from the comic book world and shoves them into one cheesy goofball mess. And they're fun! Fantastic Four is supposed to be fun characters. They're supposed to be things that you have fun with. This is the most depressing Marvel movie ever! I mean, this is the darkest out of all the Marvel movies. This is darker than any of the X-Men. Okay, maybe not darker than The Punisher, but I mean, like, out of the recent Marvel movies that have been going, this is the darkest out of all of them, because it's like, there's a point, because after they get their powers, Reed escapes this facility, runs away, and Ben is being talked to by this military guy. He's like, we'll help you, but you need to help us. He's like, what do I need to do? And we go through this thing, we see a scene where it shows the Thing fighting people on the field and tearing tanks apart, and it says, confirmed kills 47! What the heck is this? What the flippin' heck is this, guys? The Thing has killed 47 people? Serial killers have killed less people than that. And I get, okay, he's in a war and whatnot, and he's being used, but that just puts a big stamp like, whoa! Ben Grimm is a killing machine. And for them to do that to this character who's supposed to be the tough guy with the heart of gold, you just rip the heart of gold right out of the character. And let's get back to Dr. Doom. His whole thing at the end is he wants to destroy the Earth because he likes this new ultimate dimension better. And he has this thing where he's like, well, maybe our Earth needs to be destroyed. Maybe we need to be destroyed as a being. I'm like, are you flipping kidding me right now? Are you flipping kidding me right now? Dr. Doom is a character that likes to control things, and at the end of this movie, he's a mindless drone with barely any intelligence to his name. He's just a mindless, almost a robot of a character that wants to destroy stuff so the heroes can get him. And how does Reed defeat him? By punching it. That is not, look, Reed's powers are not what makes him a good character. I say Reed Richards could almost be like the only character of the Fantastic Four that doesn't have any powers. Seriously, stretching doesn't do much for him. He needs to use his great intelligence to defeat the villain, and here he just comes up with a quick strategy, and he's punching it, and then he tricks the Thing into going invisible, and then bam, and that's about it. No. This is, as I said, it's the darkest out of all of it. It's treating its source material so seriously. At least with the other Fantastic Four movie, it was trying to capture the tone. Fantastic Four is a cheesy, fun book. It's a cheesy, fun series of characters. At least the Fantastic Four movie, the old one, was trying to be cheesy fun. Its problem is its pacing was way too long. This one has that problem too. Pacing takes forever to get going, and it's drawn way too long, and it's just not good for the Fantastic Four. And their powers are barely even used. And you know what? It suffers from all the problems of the first one, but doesn't even match the tone of what the Fantastic Four should try to be like. When I saw that, you know, this had a lower rating on Rotten Tomatoes than the Fantastic Four movies, I'm like, no way, it can't be worse than that. This seems to be taking itself at least seriously, where those movies weren't. But that's the problem. It's taking itself too seriously. Look, as I said, if you were to ask me which one's a better movie, probably this one, okay? It's better made, the acting is better, but that other one is a better Fantastic Four movie by far. By far! Because even though the characters are cliched, and it has cliche stuff like Victor Von Doom wanting to be with Susan Storm and proposing to her and blah blah blah, and that's still stupid. Even though it has all of that, it at very least is trying to be a Fantastic Four film with being in the same tone as the Fantastic Four characters. That movie drops the ball a lot too, but at least it's trying. This one's not even trying to be a Fantastic Four movie. It's trying to use the characters in Fantastic Four to be its own flippin' thing, and you know what? I don't appreciate that. I don't like it, It's long, tedious, boring, and you know what? At the end, it's not even about anything. It's not even about anything. You could say, at least for like Captain America, The Winter Soldier. It's a movie about our feelings of security and how some people will give up personal privacy information just so they feel safer. You know what? That's something that can be discussed and related to in today's society. What is the message in this? None. There's some like hippie thing like, oh, maybe we don't deserve our planet, or maybe we need to work harder to do it. But it's just shoved in there. This movie isn't about anything. Its characters are boring. The pacing is boring. Some of the decisions these characters make, like when when they're going into this other dimension, I get they're drunk. But then they go and do all this thing that any scientist would say is a bad idea. Hey, that glowing stuff. Why don't we touch it? Hey, what's that over there? I don't know. This is unstable terrain. We don't know this world, even if the gravity works here. So let's not make any assumptions. You know? All this stuff that they just do, I'm just like, are you idiots? Yes! These characters, they don't have chemistry, they don't have intelligence. What they say isn't the dumbest thing in the world, it's just boring. This is a boring movie, it's pointless, as it doesn't satisfy the Fantastic Four fans, and it's not going to be entertaining enough for anyone who just wants to see a science fiction movie. If you didn't know anything about Fantastic Four at all, you just say this is it's a mediocre film. But if you do know anything about Fantastic Four, you say this movie is an awful movie as a representation of what the Fantastic Four is. And that, you know, I hear that this movie might be getting a sequel despite of it. Learn your lesson! Last time the first Fantastic Four movie didn't do well, you gave it a sequel, and it was even worse! Don't do it again! Gosh! Oh, wait, I have to give it a rating. I'm going to give it 2 ratings. As a regular movie, I'm giving it a 4. There's nothing atrocious about it as a film. It's just boring, long, and tedious. As a Fantastic Four movie, 0. Be sure to check out more of my other videos on my channel, and wait for more coming soon.